critical race theory very well might destroy America, in my view, because I don't know what's happening to this country, but good God. So the first thing here is a catch-up from yesterday. So we did the story on the cat fight between Joy Reid and Christopher Rufo, which was...
He did great, by the way.
fantastic as well. And I love how pathetic she looked, and it's been noticed by the audience. So him posting here some screenshots of the clip they put up, in which they titled it "Joy Reid Schools Critical Race Theory Critic on Legal Scholarship."
Yeah.
Schooled, and yeah, you can see the likes and dislikes there. Yeah.
And the thing is, you look at her body language, she looks like she's getting owned. And he did a great job here because she was the defensive tactic that critical theorists have been employing now is saying, well, the only people who ever talk about critical race theory are legal scholars, and so if you're not a legal scholar, you're not involved in critical race theory. It's like, okay, then we don't need to talk about it in our schools. Then don't need to talk about it in government or anywhere else. And, oh no, yes we do. It's like, okay, then that's critical race theory. No, that's not in the legal school. So it's like this is there now. This is what they've defaulted to defense. But that's really great, actually. Because what they're essentially saying is, yes, this is indefensible in every walk of life, and if you challenge it outside, then we're going to pretend we're not doing it. So that's good. That's a good admission that, in fact, this is cancer. It is destroying the United States. It's destroying civic society in general, and they know it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's good to see the people dunking on the corporate media here. You know, her being a product of that and a standard bearer for it, which is one of the weird things about all this, like critical race theory.
She's one of the worst.
Wokeism, all the rest of it. It's very elitist, very academic. It's very part of the corporate world, not part of people. So if we go to the next one here, she mentioned also that Kendi X, I don't know how you say it.
Ibram Kendi, yeah.
Yeah, she claimed that he said he was never a critical race theorist, or at least that's what he said, and yet there are quotes of him saying pretty much exactly that.
He is.
So I've certainly been inspired by my critical race theory and critical race theorists. It's a quote from him. So
and what's that? Kimberly Crenshaw, the sexual theorist and critical race theorist. My God, I can't believe how this is all adding up.
Yeah, so that's embarrassing. And if you're wondering why they do this, these people in particular, well, that's for the grift. I'm just going to say it. Like, for people like him, definitely the grift. Because we have the receipts. So this is a post, and if you can click on this, you can see $25,000 for cost of service for him to give a keynote speech to a leadership conference.
Nice work if you can get it.
$25,000.
I think that grift is not necessarily the right word, though, to be honest. In the same way that
I think it has to encompass the person not truly believing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they do truly believe it.
In the case of this, I mean, the amount of money he's making for that, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the critical race theorists do genuinely believe it, but what has happened here is the unionization of racists against white people in America. And so I don't think grifting is appropriate, but it is something that smells very much like grifting. But the point I was going to make has just left my mind, so carry on.
But anyway, the specifics of this, I think, might change your mind. So if you click out of this and scroll down to the tweet just below it, there's actually an example of the speech. You might think, oh, he went to a big hall. No, he did it online. He did a Zoom call.
He did a 25 grand Zoom call.
He did 25 grand
Nice.
Zoom call to a handful of people.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Self-interest. It's all about self-interest from the people involved, because either they are themselves black or non-white, and so they will be deliberately and obviously profiting from the idea of telling white people that they are the perennial oppressors of blacks and nothing about that can change, or they're people like Robin DiAngelo who, again, makes fat stacks out of self-flagellation. DiAngelo, being obviously an Italian name, following in the Catholic tradition of guilt, and corruption, yeah. But again, I don't think you can necessarily call this corruption. It's just a kind of popularized form of Catholic guilt that's coming very, very strongly across from DiAngelo.
Well, specifically with her, there's an instance in which she gave a talk for like 10 grand at some university, and then a black person with exactly the same qualifications gave a talk like a week later, got 7 grand. Yeah. So it's like, okay, yeah.
So the point is, it's direct self-interest that's the heart and foundation of all of this.
Anyway, so we go to the next one here. This is just an example of the fact that this is very profitable. I mean, in the UK as well. White privilege. If you just look up jobs about equality, inclusion, diversity, or BAME.
1,000 BAME jobs.
BAME jobs. Jobs for BAMEs. Yeah, this doesn't sound dehumanizing, does it?
Christ.
So, if we go to the next one as well, what's the left review on this? So their review is that the Republicans are full-on hallucinating over critical race theory. So says CNN here.
What?
So the corporate mouthpiece for the left. Republicans are hallucinating.
Are we hallucinating their textbooks?
Yeah, so the opening
And they're
line,
activists, and the 25 grand that they get paid for their Zoom calls. This is all just a fever dream.
yeah, like that 25 grand, that's not real money. It's like Starbucks money.
Why did I read all this crap if it's not real? Why did I do that?
Why do people spend so much money on the tuition? Yeah. Anyway, so she starts this monologue with saying it's MacArthurism all over again. God, I wish.
Does she mean McCarthyism?
I presume so, but I just I really want it to be that. And we have some flavour of that, shall we say, in which people are being held to account for being socialists within the highest orders of the US government because it's antithetical to the founding principles and ideology of the United States.
Yes.
That you can't have these people running a government. It doesn't make goddamn sense. It's like having Islamists running the US government. Well, you think that's proper, is it?
Well,
Of course
you
it's not
end
proper.
up with a president who expects a civil war, a counter-revolution to come after him, and then starts literally destroying private industry by buying off people so they don't work.
So this is the thing that really caught my eye. So Breitbart posting here: top U.S. military officers' defense of critical race theory to understand white rage stokes controversy. Yeah, just a little bit. So this is a guy who I don't understand the
I
positions.
can't even describe it without being racist. That's the thing.
I know. So I don't understand the organization of the United States Army or how this guy got his position, and I'm not going to go after that because I don't know. But the statements he gave are absurd. So if we go to the first clip here, this is him and the statement he gave that caused everyone to think, what the hell?
But I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university, and it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend?
Okay, yeah, you read Marx, say, right? Yeah. But then you aren't sitting there going, look, I just want to understand why the proletariat aren't rising up. That's all I want. You know, it's like, yeah, but you are adopting the axioms and framework of Marx by introducing that word and that language and that structure into the questions that you're asking, and therefore you are being a Marxist. Saying, oh, well, it's white rage. Well, what about the non-white people there? There was some guy called John who was a Black Lives Matter supporter. He wasn't white. Like, he was arrested and let go. What? How is he white rage? And if, obviously, this doesn't work, and it doesn't, then it must be nonsense.
So, in case people don't know, White Rage is a book that was written and is full of the argument that effectively there's a unique psychological disease that affects white people only. I like the idea of a disease that only affects certain races. Don't know where that came out. And it's that whenever brown-skinned people gain any kind of power, white people get rage, and therefore they get, psychological upset.
Right.
And that's what caused the storming of the Capitol in this guy's mind, or at least that's what he's arguing is he wants to understand. That's not you reading Mao or, as you say, Lenin or Marx, and then just understanding it and realizing that's the enemy. That you've adopted their axioms. You've adopted their language. You are saying that white rage caused the storming of the Capitol in your own words there. And also there's the point raised by Tucker Carlson. Well, it's nice that you've been reading Marx and whatnot to understand the enemy. Have you read Hitler? Have you read any white supremacist literature recently? No, because you'd be fired. You'd be fired on the spot, I bet. I bet there is no way that there's like a huge section on just like, here's white nationalism, enjoy boys. There would be a huge outrage about it.
More importantly, if you read anything libertarian recently, that would be more
please.
interesting.
But if he's trying to understand the enemy, he gives the word situational understanding there. Sure, I mean, if you're trying to understand communist China, you need to
I read all this junk
Mao Zedong.
because we have to.
So there's also the point, like, if he's reading wokeism, then is it to put down the wokus? Because, I mean, if that was an excuse, then, yeah, okay, fair enough. That would
No,
actually
but then saying, okay, it's the white rage of the Republicans. Like, no, what it is very obvious that there are two paradigms in play. One is the traditional Republican American paradigm, and the other one is obviously the continental European paradigm that views the state as the author of human rights, whereas the Republicans view God as the author of human rights. And these are currently in conflict. We've got this conflict going on in Britain. It's obviously going on in America, and this is the source of what the Republicans are angry about. Now, it's not explicitly couched in that language. Obviously, I'm giving a much more academic explanation of it, but like this is what is driving the problems that they see. And so when you come in and go, right, we have a problem with this race or that race, it's horrific. It's anathema to them. They're like, no, we're not here to talk about race.
Like,
we're here to talk about individual rights.
No part of the US government should be doing this, least the military. So
And that was what was wrong with the Democrats when they were persecuting black people, and now it's wrong. What's wrong with the Democrats when they're trying to help black people? It seems to be just a. It seems to let's give them the best intentions. It seems to be just a problem with the Democrats.
So he goes on to say that it's offensive to accuse the military of being woke because they put their lives on the line. Not
What are you going to do? Cry about it, snowflake?
but also the idea that
Jesus.
it's offensive to accuse them of
It's
being woke.
offensive to the military. I don't care.
No, but look at that language. It's offensive to accuse us of being woke. Well, then it's a bad thing.
Stop being woke.
Like, it's a bad thing to be woke. That's what you're saying by that. Then stop doing it. And then I have to ask, well, why is the U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force full of the damn thing?
But why are they like? Oh well, we found that offensive. Oh, well, I guess the Taliban were much more collegial when they were talking to you, were they?
So this is the first thing here as an example. So just U.S. Air Force, and then some guy, celebration of diversity and making sure we understand that flesh-colored band-aids is not about being politically correct. It's a war-fighting imperative.
Can't win this war unless the band-aids match the flesh color of the soldiers.
Yeah, so this was widely knocked. Air Force have done some other things that are a bit sus. So we go to the next one. You can see them enacting the South Park version of Operation Get Behind the Darky here.
Oh God! Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's the meme. So they decided to celebrate the first all African American flight crew, in which all the flight crew were black, and this was a huge celebration for them. Why?
How is this not some form of segregation?
Like, you've segregated them off with their own plane. Yeah,
You
this
know
is
what? There is
progress.
something different about the blacks. Say the U.S. Air Force. We need to honor them and treat them as if they're different and special.
Like, we celebrated the segregation of the forces in the 30s, and now we're doing it again in 2020s.
We will have to next war. We get another pamphlet from the Americans. You know, like in Britain, they don't actually treat black people like they're different to whites. Just get ready for that.
Gonna have to start making the films again, explaining
They
why.
it's literally come back around.
But also, why are the US accounts online so bitter about people disagreeing with them? So if we go to the next one here, you can see the US Army acting like a child. So they made some post in which they're like, yeah, diversity is our strength, and then some guy disagreed. His account has been suspended, because of course they have. You know, anyone who disagrees ends up disappearing off those platforms. And they responded with a gif of some guy saying false, like a child.
Have you not seen The Office?
I've not seen The Office, no.
Dwight, sorry.
So saying diversity is just another reason why the #Army team is so strong. And then you can learn more at a link that's just about diversity and inclusion.
I love the way that they think they're going to recruit Twitter millennials into the army.
It's so stupid.
Why does the army have a Twitter account? You don't need a Twitter
But,
account.
I mean, what is the US Army for?
Well, that's a good question.
It's for making Twitter millennials.
Representation, I
So
suppose.
says the Department of Defense. Let's go for the next one. Department of Defense posting that watch as Jackie Ian explains how the U.S. Army Reserve prepared her for her career as a beauty influencer and diversity activist with her millions of social media followers. I just cringe beyond measure. You can't sit there and be like, there's no wokeness in the U.S. military when there's tons of it. And it's all online, permanently. It's never going to disappear.
I tell you what, if I was in the U.S. military, I would be that meme where it's just like the guy here today. We fight under a new banner, and then the guy looks. I hope we lose. I mean, I'm just if you've got to fight for wokeness and diversity and intolerance, I hope we lose.
Why are we in the U.S. Army Reserve? To be beauty activists and diversity activists.
But again, it's so mercenary. I hate it. It's just a person fighting for themselves. Oh, I'm the most important thing. That's not exactly the message you want in your military. No, you're here for well, in Britain's case, Queen and Country.
Yeah.
In America, for the Constitution. Not for you.
No.
You're actually expendable. You're going to die possibly doing this. And you'll be doing it heroically for a greater reason, an ideal. No, I'm doing it for my beauty vlogging.
So we go to the next one. This is obviously a thing that's been widely mocked as well in the recruitment ads. I mean, just look at that image, the difference between military, army, American army.
Yes, I would much rather join the Russian military at this point.
And then there's just the quotes from the people inside the army. So the next
I
one.
don't think they're going to forcibly transition me, so...
So the next one here is a link in which someone's saying the problem with the woke military. And he says, we are also told by the Biden-appointed Defense Secretary Leon Austin that it must be a priority for the military to, quote, look like America, and not only in the ranks, but our leadership should look like America, end quote. So he says the new priority turns
They're all
the
gonna be
army
cat boys, aren't they?
turns the army into a social experiment at the cost of mission readiness, believing that the army should be and has been the best example of a meritocracy in the history of the world has become a forbidden position.
Yeah, this is how the US is going to fall.
Again, this is you guys being white. I mean, this is why I'm saying this stuff may end up just destroying the United States.
Taken over from the inside by a bunch of what are essentially European socialists who have abolished the idea, the foundational principles upon which the United States rests, and are now corrupting all of your institutions until they are no longer fit for purpose. That's how America's going to fall.
Yeah, so also there's a memes coming out of this tomorrow at the Pentagon from Jack Posobiec. If we can get the next one up. Yeah, that's what we expect.
Yeah.
So we get the next one.
But hang on, before we go on to the next one, this is exactly what I mean about critical race theory being used as a tool of self-interest for critical race theorists. All white people are racist, pay me. Why you? Why her? Why can't we pay some other black person? Why can't we find a black person who's literally got no money at all and pay them? It should be in all essence the same, and instead she's just arguing for her own personal self-interest.
The socialists are also widely applauding this man for defending white rage. So we go to the next one. This is Rashida Tlaib. Opposition to critical race theory is obviously rooted in racism. Great. Yeah, just if you disagree, you're a racist.
Yeah, but you are
Pathetic.
a racist and you think everyone is a racist, and it seems that you have no other language but race.
Like, the segregationists are calling us racist.
Yeah, okay.
Not going to listen.
All
but
right,
there's the
Democrat.
funny news that came out of this is apparently this guy, refused Trump's suggestion to crack skulls over the riots. So we go to the next one here. Jack Posobiec saying that he predicted this, and it turned out to be true. So, and then the next link, this is CNN, in which they have the conversation that supposedly took place, which is say, top U.S. general rejected Trump's suggestions military to crack skulls during protest last year, Newberg claims. Joint Chief of Chairman General Mark Milley often found that he was the lone voice of opposition to those demands during heated Oval Office discussions. Trump's language became increasingly violent during the Oval Office meetings as protests in Seattle and Portland began to receive attention from cable news outlets. Right, people in the chat, press S to spit on CNN, calling terrorism protests. Not interested in that. They're throwing goddamn petrol bombs. Protests. They say, quote from Trump, "That's how you're supposed to handle these people," Trump told his top law enforcement and military officials, according to Bender. "Crack their skulls." Trump also told his team that he wanted the military to go and beat the F out of the civil rights protesters.
Oh, yes, they're just protesting civil rights.
Yeah.
So when they're burning down cities, murdering people in the streets, that's a protest for civil rights.
Just shoot them, Trump said on multiple occasions inside the Oval Office, according to the experts. And when Milley and then General William Barr would push back, Trump toned in a little bit and said, "We'll shoot them in the leg or maybe the foot, but hard on them." So Trump sounding base, because we're not dealing with civil rights protesters or anything crap that CNN's trying to put. We have the pictures. We go to the next one. This is just Portland Molotovs. Molotovs, plural. There's loads of them that have been thrown. And then we have the next one. We just have the IED that was thrown at the courthouse.
Yeah, I was going to say setting fire and bombing courthouses.
And then you
Like
got
actual terrorists.
Chaz in Seattle. I mean, there have been 4 shootings in Chaz. We go to the next one. This is just the list of all the shootings there. And then it just goes on and on.
Just say, the very nature of an autonomous zone, what it is an insurrection. This is no longer the United States. This should be unacceptable to any commander-in-chief.
So
obviously.
the idea that he's looking at terrorism, people throwing firebombs, and it's like, yeah, just shoot them. Because they're using deadly force. If you use deadly force against the police, they will use deadly force
But
back.
this is so obviously the result of communist subversion. Like, this is what they do. This is what Yuri Bezmenov is talking about. To get them to rise up, to cause instability. When why? What's the problem? There isn't really a problem.
The last thing I have here is about exactly that, in which, if you scroll up here, there's a training manual that people are whining about, because it dares for a training recruit going into the US military, if they can identify what socialists, anarchists, and whatnot have in common, and it's the fact that they're all terrorist ideologies as listed. What do these terrorist ideologies have in common? Socialists, anarchists, neo-Nazis. They're like, yeah, because it is a terrorist ideology. Like, you can carry out terrorism in the name of socialism.
Yeah.
And all they're doing there is just asking the recruit to understand basic knowledge about ideological groups.
Yeah.
So it's not improper in the slightest. But I thought we'd just end on a parent fighting back against critical race theory in the best possible way of blowing the teaching scoreboard out. So let's just go for this last clip to end on.
I'm going to quote to you, Solicitor. I'm quoting, just a minute, do not talk over me. This is my comment, not your comment. I'm quoting to you now from the United States Supreme Court 1964 case, New York Times versus Sullivan. The judges wrote that This nation is founded on the, quote, profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues shall be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. That's constitutional case law in this nation. I don't have to be nice to you. Nobody behind me has to be nice to you. If you don't like living in the United States of America, then you can all move to Russia, Cuba, or China. This is the First Amendment.
Christ, I want to cheer.
And I will caution you, solicitor. There is a video camera to my left. If you edit this tape, then you're going to have a big legal problem on your hands, because my right to critique your fascism, which is what this is constitutionally protected. There are emails, public record emails, in which the Director of Equity is lobbying and advocating for public comment to be censored in this school district. And you know what? You know what? Lobbying for it, advocating for it. We've got the school board president saying she'll do better at hitting the mute button in blatant violation of the Constitution for her lobbying and her advocacy of unconstitutional censorship. I want you, the school board, to terminate the employment of Dr. Charissa Gibson with immediate effect.
I love it.
Chad.
I absolutely love the parents who are rising up in the US, and it's salutes to every single one of them. They've all been fantastic. That's a personal favorite of mine, though, in which it's just like, I don't have to be nice to you. No one in this room has to be nice to you. You don't like it, go to China.
Yeah.
True.
No, I agree.
Factually true.
And don't let up the pressure either. Keep going. Keep giving them hell. It has to happen. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.